In 1956, MGM did something they almost never did. They cut an 11-minute sequence from Forbidden Planet that was never meant to see the light of a theater projector. The scene involved Anne Francis and her pet tiger. It was quiet, symbolic, deeply unsettling. And for nearly 70 years, it was one of the best-kept secrets in Hollywood ever buried. The scene takes place early in the film. Doc Ostro, Warren Stevens, watches Altera, Anne Francis, stroke the full-grown tiger that curls peacefully at her feet like an oversized house cat. He smiles almost to himself and says the line that made the censors reach for their scissors. "Only a virgin can tame a unicorn, Alta, and you seem to have done something very like it with that tiger." That single sentence and the gentle, knowing look that followed tied Altera's sexual innocence to an ancient myth, the idea that a maiden's purity held a kind of mystical dominion over wild beasts. Later, when Altera shares her first real kiss with Commander Adams, Leslie Nielsen, the tiger, who had been her constant companion, suddenly snarls and lunges at her. In the version we all grew up watching, the attack feels abrupt, almost random, but with the deleted scene restored, it becomes devastatingly clear. The moment her innocence is lost, the moment desire awakens, the tiger senses it, and the spell is broken. The beast no longer recognizes her as its mistress. It sees her as a woman. And it turns. MGM panicked. The Motion Picture Production Code in 1956 had zero tolerance for anything that even hinted at sexuality tied to mythic or religious symbolism. A woman's virginity granting her supernatural power over animals? A kiss ending that power forever? It was too suggestive, too Freudian, too close to forbidden territory for a mainstream American film. So they cut it. Clean. 11 minutes gone. The only place the scene survived, word for word, was in the 1956 novelization written by Philip MacDonald under the pseudonym W.J. Stewart. Most readers assumed it was just the author adding flavor. They had no idea it had been filmed, acted, lit, and edited, only to be erased forever. Or so MGM thought. Because in 1977, a forgotten work print surfaced in the MGM vaults, labeled simply Forbidden Planet, Trims and Outs. Inside were the missing 11 minutes, alternate takes, raw sound, and that unicorn line delivered perfectly by Warren Stevens. No one knows why it wasn't destroyed with the rest of the outtakes. Maybe a film loader couldn't bring himself to burn it. Maybe someone slipped it into the wrong can. But it survived. And when it finally saw daylight again, first on Laserdisc, then on the 50th anniversary DVD, then on Blu-ray, everything clicked into place. Altera wasn't just the innocent space princess in a miniskirt. She was the living embodiment of a myth older than Shakespeare. The maiden and the unicorn, purity and its inevitable loss. The terrifying moment when the world notices a girl has become a woman. And the tiger turning on her wasn't random violence. It was the story's darkest, most Freudian heartbeat, but that wasn't the only thing MGM tried to hide. There's the swimming sequence. Altera floats alone in a crystalline pool on Altair 4, sunlight fracturing through the water. To 1956 audiences, she looked completely nude. Word spread like wildfire. Anne Francis naked in a science fiction movie. Moral leagues fired off letters. Theaters in the Bible Belt threatened to pull the film. Spain banned Forbidden Planet outright until 1967, not because of monsters or spaceships, but because of Anne Francis's legs and that swimming scene. MGM issued frantic statements. She was wearing a flesh-colored bodysuit. And she was. But cinematographer George Folsey lit it so perfectly, kept every seam and shadow out of frame, and let the water do the rest, that the illusion was absolute. Even the crew swore it looked real on the dailies. They had threaded the needle, suggestive without being explicit, daring without breaking the code. And it terrified the gatekeepers. There was almost an even more scandalous costume. Helen Rose designed a full-body silver lame jumpsuit with matching hood, gloves, and transparent shoes. It covered every inch of skin. Yet when studio head Dor Sherry saw the test photos, he killed it instantly. Too sexy, he said. Tight, reflective, form-fitting, it turned the future into pure eroticism. Only a handful of stills survive. Then there's the film itself, the one we think we know. It began in 1952 when two matte painters who had never written a screenplay in their lives, Irving Bloch and Alan Adler, walked into MGM with a treatment called Fatal Planet. Science fiction was the ghetto of cinema then. Rubber suits, leftover sets, B-picture budgets. Nobody took them seriously, but their pitch wasn't about bug-eyed monsters. It was the tempest in outer space. Prospero became Dr. Morbius, Miranda became Altera, Caliban became the monster from the id, and Ariel, a certain wisecracking robot named Robbie. MGM rejected it, then quietly pulled it out of the drawer 2 years later when television was eating their lunch and the public suddenly cared about space. They changed the title to Forbidden Planet, threw almost $2 million at it, 10 times the normal sci-fi budget, and told the art department to build an entire world from scratch. 4 of MGM's biggest sound stages ran simultaneously. A 350-foot hand-painted cyclorama became the Desert of Altair 4. A 167-foot wide flying saucer dominated stage 27 to the point that executives walked in, saw it, and immediately upped the budget. The Krell Laboratory used 50,000 feet of wiring, 12,500 feet of neon tubing, and so much power they had to steal electricity from other stages. And Robbie the Robot? $125,000 in 1956 dollars, more than an entire house. Inside the suit, it was hell. No ventilation, partial electrification, 200 pounds of metal and rubber. Frankie Darro lasted only until the martini lunch incident. After that, a smaller stuntman took over and still nearly passed out every take. But Robbie wasn't just expensive, he was revolutionary. He obeyed Asimov's 3 laws of robotics years before most people had ever heard of Asimov. When the id monster attacks, Robbie's circuits lock. He refuses to fire because he knows the monster is Morbius. To destroy it would be to harm a human. Ethics, not programming. That single moment changed science fiction forever. So did the score, or rather, the complete absence of a traditional score. Louis and B.B. Barron built custom circuits that screamed, moaned, and died. Each tone was unique. When a circuit burned out, they recorded its death rattle and used it. The Musicians Union refused to call it music, so the credits read Electronic Tonalities by Louis and B.B. Barron. It was the first fully electronic film score in history, and it sounded like the inside of a nightmare. The eyed monster itself? Hand-animated by Joshua Meador, on loan from Disney. Frame by frame on vellum, visible only when it crossed the force field beams. Invisible, unstoppable, born from the darkest corner of one man's mind. Critics in 1956 didn't know what to make of it. The New Yorker called it a great big silly science fiction thing. Others praised the effects, but missed the Shakespeare, the Freud, the incestuous undertones humming beneath Morbius's obsession with his daughter. The film made money, $2.73 million worldwide against a $1.9 million budget. But more importantly, it refused to fade. It became the blueprint. Star Trek's bridge layout, the look of the Enterprise corridors, the very idea of a starship captain with gravitas, all trace back to the C-57D and Commander J.J. Abrams. Robbie became the grandfather of every wisecracking mechanical sidekick that followed. The electronic score opened the door for every synth-driven soundtrack of the next 70 years. And that buried 11-minute sequence, the one with the tiger and the unicorn, it turned a good movie into something mythic. Because suddenly, Altera's entire arc made tragic sense. She wasn't just falling in love. She was crossing a threshold that could never be uncrossed. The tiger knew it. Morbius feared it. And the monster from the id, born of a father's repressed jealousy, tried to stop it. Forbidden Planet wasn't really about a distant planet at all. It was about what happens when innocence meets knowledge, when a daughter becomes a woman, when a father's love curdles into something he can't name. And when MGM cut those 11 minutes, they didn't just protect 1956 audiences from a metaphor. They accidentally made the film history. Because sometimes the most dangerous thing you can put on screen isn't a monster, it's the truth.